I sensed something was wrong the moment I placed my hand on the banister. The house felt too still, the kind of stillness that tightens the air before a storm. I had lived long enough to recognize that silence, the one that comes not from peace, but from secrets being spoken behind walls. I was halfway down the hallway when I heard them, two voices slipping into a language they thought wrapped them in camouflage. Raphael's low tone came first, tense and irritated. Then Leila's sharper, younger voice sliced through his like a blade. They were speaking Portuguese again. They believed I couldn't understand a word of it. They believed age had softened my senses, dulled my comprehension. They believed the woman who cooked their meals, folded their clothes, and stayed invisible out of habit was incapable of comprehension. But they were wrong, understood everything. I stopped moving, holding the railing as if letting go would make the truth fall straight onto my shoulders. Their words drifted down the hallway with crystal clarity. "She's dead weight," Leila snapped. A burden completely useless. My breath stilled. The translation rose automatically in my mind. A skill I'd spent 50 years hiding. Useless. Burden. Words more suited for a broken appliance than a woman nearing 80. Raphael sighed heavily, stirring sugar into his coffee with a clink that echoed like an accusation. Elena should already be in a care facility. She's slowing everything down. I pressed my lips together to keep them from trembling. I was only 6 steps away, listening to my own worth diminish to scraps. Leila gave a short, ugly laugh, one I had grown to recognize. She used it when she wanted attention, or when she enjoyed cruelty. She embarrasses me. Just look at her. Old, confused, always in the way. I leaned into the wall. The hardwood floor felt like it was tilting under my feet. At 78, insults did not hurt less. They simply found softer places in you to stab. People assume age makes one numb, but age only sharpens the sting. I stayed hidden as they moved deeper into the kitchen. They poured themselves fresh coffee without acknowledging the empty cup sitting near the sink, my cup, right where I had left it before stepping away for a moment. A small thing. A small cruelty. But the truth hides in small things. A few guests arrived minutes later. Instantly, Leila switched to English, her voice sickeningly sweet. "Oh, she's staying with us only temporarily," she chirped. "We take such good care of her." The lie sat in the air like smoke. I stepped into the doorway, wanting to remain unnoticed. But her eyes snapped toward me with a flash of irritation. "Elena," she said with a stiff smile, "don't hover. You make the house feel cramped." Cramped. I, a widow with nowhere else to go, was somehow taking up too much space. I swallowed the ache clawing at my throat. I had long learned that reacting only fed people's cruelty. I tried to leave the room quietly, but as I turned the corner, I heard Leila's voice drop again into Portuguese, a whisper she assumed I could not follow. "Jonas died without knowing the truth about me." My heart stuttered. Jonas, my first husband. The man I adored through hunger, illness, and the long, cold winters of our early life. The man who died suddenly of a heart attack. What truth? Before I could steady myself, Raphael replied, his tone as low as hers. "And Elena never will." The words struck with the cold accuracy of a knife. Jonas died without knowing the truth about Leila, and I never would dot my fingers dug into the wall. The room spun. They were speaking of my past, my marriage, my grief, and they said it with a confidence that assumed my ignorance. I stayed frozen, listening as Leila sneered again. "She's old. She doesn't understand anything." But I did. I understood too much, and for the first time in years. Something inside me sharpened instead of breaking. Because the one thing they didn't know, the thing that would destroy their carefully built lies, was this. I spoke Portuguese fluently, and now that I was listening, I would uncover everything they had buried. What truth about Jonas were they hiding? And why were they so desperate to keep me from it? I didn't leave the hallway right away. I couldn't. The truth I'd overheard clung to me like frost, making every breath brittle and thin. I pressed my palm against the wall, grounding myself, waiting for the tremor in my hands to settle. Jonas died without knowing the truth about Lila, and they believed I never would. I had always known Jonas sensed more than he admitted, especially toward the end, when illness etched itself across his face like a shadow that never lifted. But I never imagined he had left this world carrying unanswered questions about the child he'd once introduced to me with pride, calling her the future of this family. I swallowed hard and forced myself to move. Their voices continued, drifting down the corridor in sharp, flipped Portuguese. "She's too old to fight back," Raphael muttered. "Just keep her distracted. She signs whatever we put in front of her." A dull ache bloomed behind my ribs. They weren't just insulting me, they were planning something. Strategizing. Conspiring. "Once we get her into that facility," Lila whispered, "the house becomes ours to handle. We can sell it if we want. The house. The one Jonas and I had rebuilt from rotting beams and winter drafts. The one where he painted the living room blue because he said it made my eyes look brighter. The one where his handwriting still lived on the inside of the pantry door measurements. Recipes, notes he never erased. My home. Their voices faded as they moved toward the living room. I made my way to my bedroom, every step heavier than the last. I shut the door softly behind me, letting the quiet wrap around me. Then I opened the drawer of my knitstand where I kept the one object that had quietly become my ally in old age. A small digital recorder. I had bought it years ago to help remember appointments and grocery lists. But now it would serve a different purpose. I pressed the red button and whispered, "They think I don't understand. They think I am fading. They think I can't hear through walls." My voice steadied. "But I hear everything." I tucked the recorder into my sweater pocket and stepped back into the hallway, moving as silently as an old shadow dot as I approached the kitchen. I caught another thread of conversation, one that made my blood run cold. "Jonas always believed Elena was too fragile," Raphael said. "He never suspected the truth about his daughter. Not once." Leela scoffed. "He wouldn't have handled it. Especially not with her in the picture." My heart thudded painfully. Jonas. Fragile. No. He was many things, quiet, thoughtful, stubborn, but fragile was not one of them. So what truth had they kept from him? I leaned closer, my breath caught. "He died without ever knowing." Lila murmured. Raphael hummed in agreement. "And Elena won't know either." "I won't let her." "Won't let me?" "Won't let me?" A quiet fury stirred in me. A fury colder than rage, sharper than grief. I had lived too long, survived too much, loved too deeply to let too careless, cruel voices strip my life of meaning with lies. But knowledge means nothing without proof. And proof, I suspected, Jonas had left behind in ways I had never noticed. My thoughts drifted unbidden to the year I spent in Lisbon as a young woman, working for a widowed seamstress and her family. They spoke only Portuguese inside their home, and slowly, patiently, the language sank into my bones. I never told Jonas, not because I meant to keep secrets, but because my past often felt too far away to matter. But now it mattered more than anything. I turned the corner and slipped into the narrow hallway leading to Jonas's old study. The door creaked softly as I pushed it open. Dust motes floated lazily through the slanting afternoon. Sun. His desk sat undisturbed picture. Frames turned away by Raphael under the pretense of modernizing the house. Jonas would have hated that. I approached the bookshelf, where he kept things he didn't want moved. Letters, old business papers, receipts. But behind them, I remembered something else. Before his stroke weakened him, he'd tap a section of the wall while pretending to stretch. I always thought it was habit. But today, a memory tugged at me. Jonas whispering once, "Some truths should be found when they're needed, not before." My pulse quickened. I ran my hand along the wall and felt it a faint ridge, nearly invisible seam. My breath froze. I pushed lightly. The panel clicked open, and inside lay a stack of documents wrapped in a cloth I instantly recognized. Jonas's handwriting, Jonas's secrets, Jonas's truth, the truth they thought I would never reach. What had Jonas hidden inside that wall, and did it hold the truth Lila feared most? The panel swung open with a faint sigh, as if relieved to finally reveal what had been locked behind it for years. Dust rose in a thin veil, shimmering in the light like the ghost of a secret exhaling into the room. Inside the narrow cavity were two items: a folded bundle of documents wrapped in deep green cloth, and a small wooden box no larger than my palm. I stared at them, afraid to touch anything at first. These had been hidden, intentionally placed here by a man who never did anything without purpose. Jonas was meticulous, sometimes to a fault. If he went through the trouble of carving out a secret compartment in the house, it wasn't to store meaningless paper. My hand trembled as I reached for the cloth-wrapped bundle. The fabric was familiar, the same cloth Jonas had used to wrap his mother's Bible decades ago. He had kept it because he said it smelled like home, like childhood and safety. For him to use it now. I unfolded it slowly. The first document that met my eyes made my breath catch. The deed, not the deed Raphael kept in his office drawer, the one he always referred to with an air of ownership, claiming Jonas had entrusted him to manage the property after his death. No. This deed listed only one name: Elena Duarte. Mine. Not Jonas's. Not Jonas and Raphael's. Not Jonas and Lila's. Mine. My throat tightened as I traced my name printed in bold type. Jonas had transferred the house solely to me years before his death. Why hadn't he told me? Why had he gone through Raphael all that time, letting him handle paperwork when he had already made this decision? My fingers shook as I turned to the next item. A will. Not the one Raphael paraded around, using it as leverage to remind me I was protected by his guidance. This will was older but notarized. Stamped, signed. Official. In it, Jonas left everything to me. Every asset, every account, every property, every personal belonging, and beneath his signature, a note written in his shaky late-stage handwriting. Elena, if you found this, I was right to be afraid. Trust what you hear. Trust what you know. Do not trust their explanations. I blinked hard, trying to stop the tears that blurred the ink. He had known, not everything, but enough to worry, enough to hide these documents where only someone listening closely, someone paying attention, could ever find them. It struck me suddenly. Jonas never underestimated me. Not once. Even in his worst days, when he could barely stand without my support, he still believed I was capable, worthy, strong. The opposite of what Raphael and Lila whispered every day. My hand drifted to the small wooden box. My heart beat sharply in my chest as I lifted the lid. Inside, nestled carefully, were 3 USB drives. No labels, no markings, just the cold glint of memory sticks filled with whatever Jonas had felt compelled to preserve. My chest tightened with a mix of dread and anticipation. If he recorded something, if he documented anything, I needed to hear it when the house was quiet, when they weren't lurking in the hallways or pretending kindness for the benefit of neighbors. I wrapped everything quickly, hiding the documents under my sweater. I placed the wooden box deep inside my cardigan pocket and closed the panel. The soft click echoed like a heartbeat. When I stepped out of the study, I heard laughter from the kitchen, Raphael's self-satisfied chuckle, and Lila's forced giggle, the one she used when she wanted to impress him. They had no idea my world had already shifted. They had no idea theirs was about to. I walked into the kitchen, keeping my face neutral. Lila glanced at me with her usual disdain. "You look tired, Elena," she said with an overly sweet tone. "You should take a nap." I smiled thinly. "I'm fine." She rolled her eyes. Raphael reached for his coffee and muttered under his breath in Portuguese. "She's getting worse." I bit back my reply, because now I didn't need to argue. I had proof, and in my pocket. I had something they would never expect. That night, long after they went to sleep, the house finally fell silent. I sat at Jonas's old desk, plugged in the first USB drive, and pressed play. The screen flickered, and then Jonas appeared. Older, tired, but undeniably him. "Elena," he said softly, "if you're watching this." Then I failed to warn you in time. My heart stopped. His eyes were full of a truth I was about to face, ready or not. What warning had Jonas tried to give me? And what did he know about Raphael and Lila that I didn't? Jonas's face filled the laptop screen, illuminated by the soft yellow lamp on his old knitstand. His shoulders sagged under the weight of whatever he was about to say. His eyes, tired but still full of that quiet gentleness, looked straight into the camera, as if he were looking directly at me. "Elena," he began, voice low and steady, "if you are watching this, then I didn't find the courage to tell you in person. And I'm sorry for that." I leaned closer, gripping the sides of the desk. The room around me felt suspended, as if even the air held its breath. "I've been sensing things," Jonas continued. "Things I don't like, things I don't understand, and things I can't ignore." He swallowed hard, and I saw his hand trembling on the table. "Raphael has been speaking to Lila, behind closed doors. Whispering, pressuring, guiding her in ways I fear are not for her benefit or yours." My heart thudded. Jonas had seen it before I ever suspected a thing. "I don't know what he's telling her," he said. "But I know the look of a man hiding guilt. And he wears that look every time you enter the room." My breath caught. Jonas had noticed too. He leaned forward, lowering his voice even more. "Elena, there is something about Lila's past. Something that was never said outright. Someone else holds the answers. And I fear that someone is Raphael." He paused to inhale slowly, his breath shuddering. "I don't know if he's manipulating her resentment or feeding it. But I know she doesn't hate you because of anything you did. Someone planted that seed. And someone has been tending to it." My fingers curled tightly around the edge of the desk. The words I had overheard earlier echoed inside my skull. Jonas died without knowing the truth about me. And Elena never will. The camera shook slightly as Jonas shifted. "If anything ever happens to me," he whispered, "protect yourself. And don't let Raphael handle the paperwork. Not ever." The video jolted and the screen went black. For a long moment I just sat there stunned, heart pounding, pulse hammering in my ears. Jonas had recorded this for me. He had known he might not get the chance to speak these truths aloud. He had felt the danger in our own home, and he had tried to shield me from it. Wiped a tear from my cheek before inserting the second USB drive. The screen flickered to life again, another recording, made months later. Jonas looked thinner now, cheeks hollowed, shoulders frailer. But his eyes burned with urgency. "Elena, something isn't right." He pinched the bridge of his nose, fighting a headache or a memory, perhaps both. "Lila avoids me when I try to talk to her," he whispered, voice cracking. "She shuts down. She changes the subject. And when I ask her about her mother, she stiffens. My stomach dropped. Her mother. Jonas inhaled sharply. I tried to speak to Raphael. I asked him directly, and he lied, Elena. Not even a convincing lie, a panicked one. He leaned close to the camera, his voice barely audible. I believe Raphael knows more about Lila's birth than I was ever told. I believe he's been using that knowledge to control her. I couldn't breathe. He wants her to see you as the enemy, Jonas said. He wants her to rely on him. And I fear he wants something else from you. The video ended abruptly. I sat frozen, every muscle locked in place, until the silence became unbearable. Finally, I inserted the third USB drive. This one held short clips fragments. Jonas recording from different rooms, murmuring suspicions to himself as if collecting evidence for a future he dreaded. His voice carried the weight of someone trying to leave clues before time slipped away. By the time the last recording ended, my hands were trembling and my heart throbbed painfully, but my mind was sharper than it had been in years. Jonas had tried to warn me. He had known danger lived under my roof. He had known Raphael was twisting things he had no right to touch. And now I had the proof he never had the strength to confront. Footsteps sounded from down the hall. Raphael and Lila were home. I shut the laptop, wiped my cheeks, and placed the recorder on the coffee table. When they walked into the living room, laughing lightly, expecting me to be knitting or dozing. I stood waiting for them. And before either of them could speak, I pressed play. Their own voices, cruel, mocking, vicious, filled the room in Portuguese. They froze. And then I began translating every word. When confronted with their own cruelty, how far would Raphael and Lila go to protect the lies they built? And what would unravel next? The moment I pressed play, the room thickened like the air itself realized the truth was about to tear through it. Raphael's smirk faltered first. Lila's eyes widened, her throat tightening as her own voice poured from the recorder. She's dead weight. A burden. She makes the house feel suffocating. Once she's in the facility, we can sell the place. The sound of their voices, sharp and venomous in Portuguese, echoed through the living room. But what transformed the room, what stripped them bare, wasn't the insults. It was my voice layered over theirs, calmly translating each line. I watched their faces crumble as I spoke. She slows us down. She won't know what she's signing. She's too old to fight back. Elena will never discover the truth about Jonas. Lila threw her hand to her mouth. Raphael's jaw locked, the muscle near his temple twitching violently. You understood, Lila whispered, horror twisting her expression. I met her eyes evenly. Every word. Silence exploded through the room. Raphael inhaled sharply, regaining a sliver of arrogance. This is a misunderstanding, he said quickly. We were venting. People say things. I raised a hand to stop him. Not like this, I said. And not in secret. You spoke freely because you never imagined I could listen. He opened his mouth again. But the next recording had already begun, the one that hit like a strike to the gut. Lila's voice, unmistakably hers. Jonas died without knowing the truth about me. And Raphael's cold response. And Elena never will. The crack in the room was audible. Lila stumbled back, hitting the side of the couch. Turn it off, she choked. Turn it off. I didn't. You hid something from Jonas. My voice was low but steady. And from me. Lila shook her head, tears welling. You don't understand. I understand everything, I said quietly. You were speaking in a language you believed would protect you. But that protection is gone. Her knees buckled, and she sank onto the edge of the couch. Raphael remained standing rigid, calculating. his mind scrambling to regain control. His tone softened artificially. Elena, we only wanted what was best. For you. For this home. For yourselves, I corrected. This house Jonas's legacy is all you cared about. He stiffened. I continued, my voice sharpening. You manipulated documents. You whispered poison into Lila's ear. You convinced her she had every reason to hate me. Lila's head snapped toward him, eyes widening in confusion. Manipulated? She whispered. You told me. Enough, Raphael hissed, grabbing her arm. I stepped forward. Let her speak. He dropped her arm, jaw clenching. Lila wiped her face with trembling fingers. He said Jonas regretted marrying you, she whispered. He told me Jonas wanted to change the will, that he wanted me to inherit the house. My breath caught. Jonas regret marrying me? No. That lie was meant to rot her from the inside, and you believed him. I asked softly. She looked down at her hands. He showed me a copy of a will. She swallowed. Your name wasn't on it. A forged will. One Raphael had created to control her. To control me. I reached into my sweater and placed Jonas's real will and the deed on the coffee table. Read, I said. Lila leaned forward hesitantly. As her eyes scanned the pages, tears spilled again, faster this time, born not from fear but from realization. Everything was left to you, she whispered. And the house. Your name is the only one listed. Raphael went pale. And Jonas suspected you, I added quietly. He suspected you knew something about Lila's birth. Something you never shared. The room erupted with tension. Lila's eyes shot to Raphael. What truth? She demanded. What didn't he know about me? Raphael backed up a step, his facade cracking. Stop asking questions you don't want answers to, he snapped. But the way he said it, the tremor, the panic gave everything away. Lila's breath shook. You lied to me, she whispered. All these years. He didn't deny it, not one word. And the silence that followed was heavier than any confession. If Raphael had lied about Lila's past, then what was the real truth? And why had Jonas feared it so deeply? For a long, strained moment, Raphael said nothing. His silence wasn't the silence of a man searching for honesty. It was the silence of someone, calculating which lie could still save him. But it was too late for that. Lila stepped toward him, her breath ragged, eyes shimmering with betrayal. You told me my father abandoned me, she said, voice quivering. You told me Jonas took me in out of guilt. You told me he didn't want a child that wasn't his. Her hands trembled at her sides. You told me Elena resented me, that she blamed me for the money Jonas spent trying to raise me. Raphael exhaled through his nose, jaw tight. I told you what you needed to hear. Needed? She whispered. Needed for what? He didn't answer, but he didn't have to. His silence said everything. I stepped closer. Lila, you deserve to know the truth. She looked at me, then really looked at me, not with contempt or irritation, but with the fragile gaze of someone witnessing the collapse of their entire identity. I picked up the last item I hadn't shown them yet. The envelope marked in Jonas's handwriting. The one I had saved for this moment. To be opened only if the truth becomes necessary. Lila stared at the words as if they might burn through the paper. I unfolded it carefully. Inside was a single sheet of DM, a report Jonas had ordered years ago. His signature was printed at the bottom. Jonas ordered this, I said gently. He never gave it to you because he never found the right moment. Or perhaps because he feared what it would cause. Lila's breath hitched. This is a paternity test. It proves. She swallowed, eyelids fluttering. That Jonas was your biological father. Her hand flew to her mouth. Her knees buckled and she collapsed into the nearest chair. A sob tore from her throat, raw and strangled. He was my father, she whispered, her voice breaking. He loved me. And she covered her face, shaking. I hated you because of lies he told me. Her shoulders trembled under the weight of grief and guilt. I felt something in me soften. Not forgiveness. Not yet, but recognition. The pain in her voice wasn't theatrical or manipulative. It was the collapse of years of deception. Then her gaze snapped toward Raphael, fiery, wounded and dangerous. You knew, she said, pointing at him with a trembling finger. You knew the whole time. Raphael's jaw clenched. Layla, you knew Jonas was my father, she cried. You knew he loved me. You knew he never wanted to change his will. Her voice cracked. And you let me hate him anyway. You let me hate her. His eyes darted between us, desperation seeping through his composure. You don't understand. If Elena had control of the estate. Lila cut him off with a scream. You ruined everything. Raphael finally snapped. Your mother didn't want you, he spat. She left you on Jonas's doorstep, pregnant with another man's child, and he took you in because he was too noble to send you to an orphanage. I protected you from that truth. Lila froze. I froze. Raphael seemed to realize he had said too much, but he was unraveling now. Unraveling fast. And when Jonas found out she lied, he continued harshly, it broke him. He wanted to confront her. He wanted answers. But she disappeared. And He shut his mouth abruptly. Lila stepped closer to him, voice barely above a whisper. You were involved, weren't you? Raphael's eyes darted away. You knew my mother, she said, trembling. You knew her more than you ever told Jonas. Still, he said nothing. But the truth was already in the air thick, sharp, undeniable. Lila staggered back, horror twisting her features. Were you? She couldn't finish the question. I stepped between them, my voice steady despite the chaos. Lila, I said softly, Jonas suspected Raphael knew the truth about your mother. He didn't know the full story, but he knew there was something wrong. Lila covered her face again, sobbing. Raphael shook his head weakly. I did what I had to. I kept the family from falling apart. You tore it apart. She screamed. He took one step toward her. Enough of this. You're emotional. You're confused. But she recoiled as if he were poison dot. And for the first time since I'd known her, Lila stepped closer to me instead. Elena, she whispered, trembling, I need to know everything. All of it. And I can't trust him. Her voice cracked. Please, tell me what Jonas feared before he died. I looked at Raphael, his calm facade shattered, his lies exposed. And I realized he wasn't done fighting yet. Raphael had lost control, but desperate men don't surrender easily. What would he do now that the truth was slipping through his fingers? Raphael stood motionless, chest rising and falling faster than normal, but his eyes were the part of him losing control. They weren't calculating anymore. They weren't confident. They were wild cornered and a cornered man is always a dangerous one. Lila wiped her face with the back of her trembling hand, then stepped closer to me. Not behind me, not hiding, but aligning herself with me. The shift was subtle but unmistakable. Something within her had recognized the truth in a way she could no longer deny. Elena, she whispered. You said Jonas feared something. Tell me what it was. I held her gaze. He believed Raphael was hiding parts of your past. He thought someone manipulated you, shaping your resentment to serve their own purpose. Raphael laughed a bitter, cracking sound. Manipulated? She needed guidance. She was lost. No, I said firmly. She was misled. Leela flinched as if struck, then turned to him. Was any of it true? She demanded. Anything you told me about Jonas? About Elena? About my mother? Raphael's jaw tightened. He took a step forward. Your mother was complicated. That's not an answer, Lila snapped. Some things, he hissed, are better left buried. His voice dropped to a tone that slithered under the skin. And you two are digging in places you shouldn't. The threat was thinly veiled, but unmistakable. I straightened my back. The truth doesn't disappear just because you want it to. Raphael's lip curled. Truth? You've survived this long because I allowed you to. If I hadn't stepped in after Jonas died, you stepped in because you needed control, I said. Not because you cared. For the first time since I'd known him, Raphael's mask shattered cleanly. Something dark, resentful, almost obsessive flashed behind his eyes. You think Jonas was the saint? He spat. You think he saw everything clearly? He was blind, Elena. Blind to her. He pointed at Leela. And blind to you. Enough, Lila said sharply. Jonas loved us. Raphael barked a laugh. Yes, well, Jonas loved many people. And look how that turned out for him. My stomach twisted. What do you mean by that? I asked quietly. He paused, and in that moment, his expression changed, subtle but chilling. As if he realized he had revealed more than he intended. He inhaled slowly. Nothing, he said. But it was not nothing. It was something. I stepped toward him. Jonas told me shortly before he died that he sensed someone lying to us. Someone close. Was that you? Raphael's eyes glinted. Jonas was sick. His mind wandered. No, I said firmly. His instincts were sharper than ever. And then Lila, tears still drying on her cheeks, whispered the question that froze us all. Did you love my mother? The room contracted. Raphael stiffened. This is pointless. Answer me, Lila demanded, voice breaking. Were you involved with her? His silence cracked like glass under pressure. She gasped. You were, weren't you? Raphael stepped back, not with guilt, but with something closer to panic. You don't know what you're talking about. But Jonas did, she whispered. That's why he ordered the test. He needed to know if I was his child or yours. And there it was. The truth Jonas had suspected. The truth Raphael had feared. The truth Lila was finally holding in her hands like broken shards. Raphael's breath grew uneven. You don't understand. Your mother, she needed help. She confided in me. And Jonas was too stubborn to see the full story. That's not an answer, I said. It's all you're getting, he snapped. No, Lila said, stepping forward. I want the truth. And that was the moment Raphael's desperation turned into action. He lunged toward the coffee table straight. For the documents Jonas left behind. I reacted before I had time to think. I stepped between him and the evidence, blocking his reach. He stopped inches from me, his face contorted with fury and fear. Move, he growled. No, I said. Leela screamed. Raphael, stop. But he didn't. His hands shook, his voice sharp with rage. You don't get to take my life apart because of some old man's paranoia. I met his gaze steadily. Jonas wasn't paranoid. He was right. He froze just for a heartbeat. Then, the front door creaked. Open. All three of us snapped our heads toward the sound. A shadow crossed the threshold. Someone else was entering the house. Someone who wasn't supposed to be here. Who just walked in, and will their arrival expose the last truth Raphael has been desperate to hide? The front door creaked wider, slow enough to scrape across our nerves. The room fell into a stunned stillness. Raphael's breath hitched mid-snarl. Layla hugged herself as if bracing for an impact she couldn't see. A pair of footsteps entered the house confident, unhurried. Then a figure stepped into view. Detective Armin Rivera. My breath left me in a sharp exhale. I hadn't seen him since Jonas's passing. Rivera had been one of the officers who responded the night Jonas collapsed. He wasn't family. He wasn't a friend. He was simply thorough. Too thorough, Raphael once muttered. The words felt heavier now. Evening, Rivera said calmly, gaze shifting between the three of us. Door was half open. I called out. No one answered. Thought something might be wrong. There was more behind his eyes than polite concern. He had heard something. Maybe raised voices. Maybe more. Raphael stepped forward quickly, plastering on a smile that didn't fit. We're fine. Family disagreement. We were just finishing up. Funny, Rivera replied. It didn't sound like fine. And given the history attached to this address. His eyes lingered on Raphael. I figured I'd check. Leela shot a questioning look my way, but I kept my expression still. Rivera couldn't have chosen a more explosive moment to walk in. He noticed the papers on the coffee table, Jonas's real will, the deed, the DNA report. He also noticed the recorder, its light still blinking, and he noticed the fear tightening Raphael's posture. Mr. Duarte, Rivera said slowly, are these legal documents you've been handling? Raphael swallowed. They're private, Rivera repeated, or concealed. The word hit like a thrown stone. Raphael's eyes darted to me, warning, pleading, furious all at once. Elena doesn't know what she's doing, he snapped. You know how age can... Stop, I said sharply. Rivera's eyes met mine with a hint of recognition. Mrs. Duarte, is there something you need to report? Lila stepped forward, voice trembling but clear. She does. And so do I, Raphael hissed. Lila don't. But she kept going. I grew up believing my father regretted me, she said. I believed Elena hated me. I believed Jonas wanted to change his will. All because of him. She pointed at Raphael with a shaking hand. Rivera raised an eyebrow. That's a serious accusation. It's not an accusation, I said. It's the truth. I handed Rivera Jonas's real will. Jonas left everything to me. Raphael forged documents to say otherwise. I handed him the deed. And this house is in my name alone. Then finally, the envelope with the DNA test. Rivera read each line with a slow, meticulous care. When he looked up again, something cold had settled behind his eyes. Mr. Duarte, he said quietly, you knowingly misrepresented the legal ownership of this home. Raphael's voice cracked. I was protecting our family. Rivera sized him up in one long, unbroken stare. Or protecting your control. That hit a nerve. Raphael lunged toward the papers, toward the box, toward anything he could still destroy. But Lila grabbed his arm. Her grip was small, but her determination was enormous. Don't, she whispered. It's over. That single word over finally broke something inside him. His shoulders slumped. His eyes lost their fire, leaving behind something hollowed out by years of secrets and control. He sank onto the armchair, face buried in his hands. Rivera called it in silently. No theatrics, no cuffs yet. Just procedure unfolding with a quiet, decisive rhythm. Whatever consequences awaited Raphael, they were already in motion. Lila watched him with a storm of emotions: hurt, disbelief, grief for a childhood built on lies, but no hatred. Just clarity. When Rivera stepped aside to make the final call, she turned to me. Elena, she whispered, I didn't know. I swear it. He twisted everything. I don't expect forgiveness, but A sob caught in her throat. I want to know Jonas. The real Jonas. And I want to know you. Without his voice in my ear. Her vulnerability was raw, still bleeding. But honest. I took a slow breath. The hurt she caused was real. Deep. But so was the child I once held as she slept. The girl who clung to me during storms. The young woman who lost her way because someone else handed her the wrong map. We start from the truth, I told her. No lies, no secrets. No translations needed. She nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. When Rivera escorted Raphael out, the house grew quiet, not the oppressive quiet of fear, but the clean quiet that comes after a storm washes the air. I stood in the doorway, feeling the space around me finally breathe again. Jonas's home, our home, was safe. The truth had survived. And for the first time in years, I could feel my own future instead of someone else's plans for it. Lila stepped beside me on the porch, wrapping her sweater tightly around her. Elena, she whispered, what happens now? I looked at the horizon, steady and warm. Now, I said, we rebuild from the truth. If you like my story, please like this video. Subscribe channel and comment below what kind of story you like this. I will find for you real stories.